Human becomes the bodyguard for twin alien women, and now he's in their bed. Jack Carter had learned long ago that the worst jobs were the quiet ones. The loud jobs came with gunfire, alarms, and clear enemies. The quiet ones came with polite messages, strange rules, and people who smiled while planning your death. This job began as a quiet one. Jack was on a small human station near the edge of map space when the message arrived. It did not come through the normal security channels. Instead, it came as a private offer, sealed with multiple layers of alien code and human legal marks. That alone told him most contractors had already refused it. Jack sat alone in the station cafeteria, a half-empty cup of bitter coffee in his hand, while he read the details on his wrist screen. The request was simple in words and heavy in meaning. Protect 2 alien women, twins, nobles, long-term assignment, travel required. Discretion mandatory. The pay was high, not just high by human standards but high by galactic standards, enough to make a careful person nervous. Jack did not smile. He never smiled at numbers. He scrolled further. The twins belonged to a species called the Alari. Tall, pale-skinned beings with soft glowing patterns along their arms and necks. Jack had seen them before, from a distance. They were known for advanced biotech, strict social rules, and dangerous political games. They were also known for one other thing. No one fully understood them. The file listed the twins' names, Lyra and Sina. Jack repeated the names silently, committing them to memory. The reason for protection was marked as internal threat, political pressure, refusal of binding union. Jack exhaled slowly. Nobles who refused political marriages often ended up dead, sometimes quietly, sometimes publicly, as a warning to others. Most security firms avoided such work. They preferred clear wars and simple pirates. Guarding nobles meant becoming part of their politics whether you liked it or not. Jack leaned back in his chair and looked around the cafeteria. A few traders laughed at a nearby table. A janitor moved slowly across the floor. The station hummed with the soft sound of recycled air. This life was safe, boring, predictable. He accepted the contract. The transport to Alari space took 3 weeks. Jack spent most of it training, reviewing alien law, and reading everything he could about Alari culture. Much of it contradicted itself. One source claimed Alari were cold and distant. Another said they were deeply emotional but private. Some claimed they trusted machines more than people. Others said they trusted touch and presence above all else. Jack noted all of it and believed none of it completely. When the ship entered Alari-controlled territory, the change was immediate. Traffic lanes became silent and precise. Ships moved like pieces on a board, never touching, never drifting. Even the stars seemed more organized, as if someone had drawn lines between them. The station where the twins lived was not a station at all. It was a living structure grown from layered materials that looked like crystal and bone. It floated in open space without visible thrusters, held in place by technology Jack did not understand. A delegation met him at the dock. No guards, no weapons in sight, just 3 Alari officials in flowing garments, their skin marked with faint light. One of them spoke in careful human language. "You are Jack Carter, designated protector." "Yes," Jack said. His voice was calm and even. "You are aware this role extends beyond standard security duties." "I am aware," Jack replied. The official studied him closely, eyes dark and unblinking. "Many humans refused this contract." "Many humans are smarter than me," Jack said. That earned him a brief pause, maybe surprise, maybe amusement. It was hard to tell with Alari faces. "You will meet the twins now," the official said. "Follow." They led him through curved halls filled with soft light. The air smelled clean with a faint metallic edge. The walls pulsed slowly as if the structure itself was breathing. Jack stayed alert, every sense open. No corners were sharp. No shadows were deep. It was a place designed to remove tension, which made him more tense. The doors to the inner chamber opened without sound. Lyra and Sina stood near a wide window that looked out into space. A pale blue star burned in the distance. They were similar but not identical. Lyra stood slightly taller, her posture sharp and confident. Sina stood with her hands folded, her gaze thoughtful and steady. Both turned toward Jack at the same time. The silence stretched. Jack stopped a respectful distance away and inclined his head. "Jack Carter," he said, "assigned bodyguard." Lyra tilted her head. A faint glow rippled along her neck markings. "So this is the human," she said. Sina studied him without speaking. Jack met their eyes, then looked away slightly. Not submissive, not challenging, balanced. "You requested a human specifically," he said. "May I ask why?" Lyra smiled. It was not unkind, but it was sharp. "Because humans are difficult to move," she said. Sina nodded. "When a human stands somewhere, others must go around him." Jack considered that. "I can stand in many places," he said. "Good," Lyra replied. The officials excused themselves, leaving the three alone. The room felt larger without witnesses. "You understand the danger we are in," Sina said softly. "I do," Jack replied. "Many will try to remove us," Lyra added. "Some politely, some not." "My job is to stop that," Jack said. Sina stepped closer. Close enough that Jack could see the fine texture of her skin, the faint shifting light beneath it. "And if stopping them means defying our own people." Jack did not hesitate. "Then I defy them." That answer changed something in the room. Lyra laughed quietly. "You hear that, sister?" He did not ask permission. Sina smiled just a little. From that moment, Jack knew the job was already different. The first test came sooner than expected. During a formal reception that night, nobles from several houses gathered to observe the twins. The room was full of soft voices, glowing garments, and careful smiles. Jack stood behind Lyra and Sina, still and watchful. No one carried weapons. They did not need to. One noble stepped too close. Another blocked an exit with his body. A third asked questions that were polite but sharp enough to draw blood. Jack shifted his position each time, never aggressive, never apologetic, just present. When one noble tried to place a hand on Sina's arm, Jack moved. He did not grab. He did not strike. He simply stepped between them. The room fell silent. The noble stared at Jack, shocked. "This is improper," the noble said. Jack met his gaze. "So is touching someone who did not invite you," Jack replied. No anger, no threat, just fact. After a long moment, the noble stepped back. The reception ended early. Later, in the quiet of their private quarters, Lyra turned to Jack. "You embarrassed him," she said. "He embarrassed himself," Jack answered. Sina watched him carefully. "You did not ask us before acting." "I did not need to," Jack said. "You were uncomfortable." Lyra's glow brightened slightly. "Interesting," she said. The next days passed with constant tension. Messages arrived. Invitations. Warnings hidden as concern. Jack learned the layout of the structure, mapped escape routes, noted patterns in movement and behavior. And always the twins watched him. They asked him about Earth, about human families, about why humans chose dangerous work. "Someone has to stand in front," Jack said simply. One evening, as alarms briefly sounded from a distant sector, Sina asked a quiet question. "If you fail, you die. Why accept this?" Jack thought of the cafeteria, the coffee, the quiet safety. "Because standing still feels worse," he said. The alarm turned out to be a test, a probe, a warning. Lyra stood beside Jack at the window afterward, stars reflected in both of them. "They will keep pushing," she said. "I know," Jack replied. She looked up at him. "Do you regret accepting?" Jack looked out at the stars. Not yet. Far away, plans were being made. Lines were being drawn. And somewhere in the growing web of Alari politics, a simple truth began to spread. The human was not easy to move, and that made him dangerous. The days after Jack's arrival settled into a strange rhythm. The twins moved through their duties with grace, their glowing markings pulsing gently in the quiet light of their chambers. Jack followed, always a step behind, observing, learning, and staying alert. He understood now that this was not just about guarding bodies. It was about reading people, predicting actions, and standing where no one else could. Lyra was the first to test him. She was bold, curious, and impatient with caution. She had a habit of disappearing from view without warning, walking through parts of the station that were restricted, or even climbing on areas that seemed unsafe. One morning, she simply walked into the maintenance shaft, a narrow corridor barely wide enough for a single person, and waited for Jack. "Why are you here?" Jack asked calmly, appearing at the entrance. "To see if you follow," Lyra replied, a small smile playing on her lips. Jack stepped into the shaft, noting every edge, every shadow, and every vibration of the moving parts around them. The twins' people had sensors everywhere, some visible, some hidden, but Jack moved as if he belonged. He did not rush. He did not hesitate. Lyra watched closely. "You are too careful," she said. "Too careful keeps you alive," Jack replied. "Sometimes careful kills you faster than action," she said, stepping closer to a moving conduit. Jack instinctively moved to block her path, but only to create a protective space, not to stop her entirely. She laughed softly and moved past him anyway, testing his reflexes. He followed silently, noting the patterns of her movement, the way she handled obstacles, the way she reacted to tight spaces. By the time they emerged from the shaft, he had already identified several weak points in the station's safety protocols. Lyra's tests were dangerous, but they were also revealing. Sina's tests were quieter, subtler. She would sit in rooms with delicate instruments and complex consoles, pretending to study charts, while Jack monitored her from across the room. She would ask questions about his past, about Earth, about humans in ways that were more than curiosity. She wanted to see how he thought, how he reasoned, and how he reacted to moral questions. "Why do humans fight for money?" she asked one evening, her voice soft in the glow of the room. "Because someone has to," Jack said. He did not elaborate, but his eyes held the weight of experience. "But why take danger?" she pressed. "Because standing still is worse," he said, repeating what he had told her before. She studied him for a long moment, her glowing markings dimming slightly, a sign of deep thought in Alari behavior. The twins began to trust him slowly, in ways that other humans could not. They allowed him to walk near them without protective barriers, to touch controls if needed, and to act decisively when danger arose. Danger came sooner than expected. One evening, as Jack was observing the twins from a distance in their quarters, alarms rang suddenly throughout the station. The lights shifted to red, and a voice in alien language called out in a clipped, urgent tone. Someone had breached the outer defense perimeter. Jack moved first. He did not hesitate. He checked the twins' positions, assessed their options, and led them through a safe path toward a protected chamber. The intruders were small in number but heavily armed. They moved quickly, trying to bypass security measures and reach the twins' quarters. Jack positioned himself between the twins and the approaching threat. He did not draw a weapon immediately. He studied the intruders, noting their formation, their timing, and their weak points. Then, with precise movements, he neutralized the first two without alarms, using pressure points and careful maneuvers. The twins watched silently, impressed but not surprised. When the last intruder hesitated, Jack grabbed a nearby object, a heavy metal rod used for maintenance, and used it to knock the weapon from their hand. He moved with speed and skill, but never recklessly. The station's internal systems detected his actions, but no alarm went to the twins' chambers. After the threat was neutralized, Lyra approached him. "You didn't need to fight like that," she said. Her voice held both admiration and a hint of challenge. "If I hesitated, they would have reached you," Jack replied simply. Sina placed a hand lightly on his arm. It was a gesture of trust, rare among her people. "You understand more than we expected," she said. The twins began to include him in matters that were not strictly security. They discussed politics, threats, and alliances with him, seeking his input, knowing that his human perspective was different. While others feared humans would be impulsive, the twins had already learned that Jack's careful thinking was deadly effective when combined with human intuition. Jack also began to notice their differences. Lyra was impulsive, direct, and willing to take risks. Sina was patient, observant, and calculated. Together, they balanced each other, and Jack's presence became a stabilizing factor in the dynamic. He was learning to anticipate their moves, and they were learning to trust his judgment even when it conflicted with tradition. One afternoon, Lyra proposed an unusual test. She wanted to see how Jack would react under social pressure. She arranged a meeting with a group of influential alien nobles and invited Jack as a silent observer. The room was filled with carefully measured politeness. Everyone smiled, but the tension was thick. One noble questioned the twins' recent decisions, implying weakness. Another subtly suggested that the human could not be trusted. Jack remained silent at first, observing. He noted every shift in posture, every change in tone, and every flicker of light in the twins' markings. Then, when a noble tried to suggest the human was interfering in alien politics, Jack spoke. "I do not interfere," he said calmly. "I only protect. And protection requires observation." The room went quiet. The noble stared, unsure how to respond. The twins did not intervene. They let Jack speak for himself. After a long pause, the noble lowered their gaze and muttered an apology. Later, Lyra smiled at him. "You passed," she said simply. Sina nodded in agreement. Jack's presence became not just protective but symbolic. The twins' enemies had to consider him, not because he was alien or powerful in their terms, but because he was human, unpredictable, loyal, and unmovable. As days turned into weeks, Jack settled into a routine. He trained with the twins, studied alien language and customs, and patrolled the station continuously. He learned their preferences, their habits, and their vulnerabilities. In turn, the twins began to rely on him not only for protection but for companionship. One night, as they sat together looking out at the distant stars, Sina spoke quietly. "Humans see the world differently," she said. Jack nodded. "We have to, otherwise we do not survive." Lyra laughed softly. "You are not like any other human we have met." "Maybe because I am not here for politics," Jack said. "I am here to protect you." Their eyes met. For the first time there was no test, no challenge, no hidden meaning, just trust. It was a fragile trust, but it was real. Jack knew that soon the real tests would come. The twins' enemies would not stop. The political pressure would grow. The station would be under threat again. And when that happened, Jack would have to act not only as a protector, but as a strategist, a negotiator, and possibly the only one who could keep the twins alive. But for now, he allowed himself a rare moment of calm. He sat between Lyra and Sina, letting them discuss their plans quietly. He did not interrupt, did not interfere, and did not falter. The twins watched him carefully, and for the first time Jack understood something important about their species. They did not test for strength or skill alone. They tested for loyalty, calm, and patience, qualities that were rare among humans. Yet he possessed them. And that made him dangerous. The next morning, a new challenge arrived. A message from an unknown source warned of another attack, one more coordinated and lethal than before. It was a threat, yes, but also a recognition. Someone had noticed that a human was guarding the twins, and that human could not be ignored. Jack read the message and folded it carefully. He looked at the twins. Lyra's eyes were sharp, Sina's steady. He did not smile. He never smiled at danger. "We will face it together," he said, and the twins nodded. Together, they were learning that a human could do more than protect. He could change the balance of power entirely. The tests were only beginning, but Jack was ready. He had been ready long before he arrived. And the twins, for all their strength and intelligence, were beginning to realize that having a human by their side was not a risk. It was an advantage unlike any other in the galaxy. The bond was forming slowly, quietly, and inevitably. And once it grew, nothing would be the same. The galaxy, it seemed, had underestimated humans again. Jack Carter was about to show them why Jack Carter had spent weeks learning the station, the twins, and the patterns of their people. Every day brought a new challenge, a new test, or a new lesson. The twins were unlike anyone he had ever met. Lyra was quick to act, bold and fearless, always testing the limits of the station's rules. Sina was patient, careful, and observant, reading situations before responding. Together they were a force, but even they had vulnerabilities. One evening, after a long day of drills and patrols, the twins called Jack to their quarters. The room was dim, lit only by soft panels along the walls. Jack stepped inside quietly as always, keeping his senses alert. "Jack," Lyra said, her voice low but commanding, "we want to see how you react to something new." Jack nodded. "I am ready." Sina stepped closer, her gaze steady. "This is not a threat. It is a rule of our people, one you may not understand yet." Jack tilted his head slightly, waiting. Lyra moved to a central platform in the room, a raised area that glowed faintly. "You know our species values presence," she said. "We show trust by proximity. Sharing space is a sign of loyalty and protection." Jack listened carefully. He had read about these customs in the files, but experience was different. The twins' words carried weight. They were not asking politely, they were testing him. "You are going to stay here with us tonight," Sina said softly. "Sleep in the same chamber. It is a measure of trust." Jack understood immediately. This was a ritual of bonding among the Alari. To outsiders it might seem strange, even intimate, but in their culture it was symbolic, protective, and powerful. "I understand," Jack said simply. "I will do as you ask." Lyra's glow brightened slightly, a sign of approval. Sina's markings shifted subtly, showing cautious satisfaction. They prepared for rest, moving to positions near the platform. Jack followed, keeping a careful distance, not disrespectful, not distant, just appropriate. The room was quiet except for the hum of the station and the faint pulsing of the twins' markings. For hours, Jack observed and listened. No one spoke much. There were no threats that night, no alarms, no sudden movements. It was calm, but the calm carried its own lessons. He learned more about their sleeping patterns, how they moved in subtle ways, how their senses remained alert even in rest. He realized that staying close was not about proximity alone. It was about understanding, anticipating, and responding without hesitation. By morning, Jack had mapped the nuances of their behavior during rest. He had learned which areas were most vulnerable, how to position himself to provide protection without intrusion, and how to remain ready for any threat. When the twins awoke, they studied him carefully. "You are attentive," Lyra said, "more than I expected." "I pay attention," Jack replied. "It keeps everyone safe," Sina nodded. "Humans have a different way of protecting. We understand it now." The next day brought another test, this one more public. The twins were scheduled to attend a meeting with other noble houses. The halls were crowded, full of diplomats, guards, and observers. Every step they took was watched, every word recorded. Jack walked behind them, alert for any sudden movement. The twins moved confidently, knowing he was there. Yet the crowd reacted differently to him. Whispers followed him. Some nobles tried to push through the crowd, testing his patience and skill. Others simply watched, curious at the human who did not flinch or yield. When a minor scuffle broke out, Jack intervened quickly but quietly. He separated the participants, disarmed one aggressive figure, and positioned himself to block further contact. No one was harmed. The twins did not intervene, they let him act. Afterward, Lyra turned to him with a small smile. "You are learning faster than we imagined." "I have to," Jack said. "Your safety is my responsibility." Sina's voice was quieter. "And we trust you to do it without question." The day ended without incident, but the message was clear. Jack was not just a bodyguard. He was part of their presence, a living barrier no one could ignore. The twins' enemies had begun to notice, and the political game was shifting. Later, Jack noticed something unusual. A private message arrived through the station's secure channels. It was a warning. An attempt on the twins' lives would come soon, and it would be precise, coordinated, and without mercy. Jack studied the message carefully. It contained information only someone with inside knowledge could provide. He did not panic. He simply planned. He briefed the twins. "They know we are together," he said, "and they will try again." Lyra's glow brightened, signaling determination. "Then we will be ready." Sina's voice was steady. "With you, we have an advantage they cannot predict." The following days were filled with preparation. Jack mapped every corridor, every access point, and every potential threat. He trained with the twins, running drills that combined physical skill with strategy. Lyra enjoyed the challenge, pushing him to his limits. Sina analyzed outcomes, ensuring every possible scenario was considered. Jack began to notice the subtle ways they cared for each other. Lyra would protect Sina in moments of distraction. Sina would redirect attention or signal danger before it happened. Their bond was deep, and it influenced how Jack approached his duty. He was not just guarding two individuals, he was part of a trio, each dependent on the other. One evening, as they reviewed security data, Sina spoke quietly. "Humans are different. You do not act out of tradition or fear, you act out of choice." Jack nodded. "I choose to protect you. Nothing else matters." Lyra laughed softly. "Your simplicity is confusing, but effective." That night the station received another warning. It was not a direct threat this time, but a signal, a probe sent to test their defenses. Jack responded immediately, positioning himself between the twins and the station's outer wall. He monitored the incoming signals, traced their origin, and neutralized the probe before it reached the intersections. The twins observed silently, impressed by his efficiency and calm. It was not the strength of his body alone that mattered. It was his presence, his ability to anticipate danger, and his unwillingness to yield under pressure. As the weeks passed, Jack's bond with the twins deepened. They began to include him in decisions beyond security. They asked for his opinion on alliances, on potential threats, and on how to handle subtle diplomatic challenges. His perspective was human, yes, but it was effective in ways no one had expected. Lyra turned to him one evening. "We do not fully understand humans," she said. "But you are teaching us something new." Jack smiled faintly. "I just do what I can. It is all I know." Sina nodded. "And it is enough. For now, it is more than enough." The bond between them grew quietly but unmistakably. Jack realized that protecting the twins was no longer about standing guard. It was about presence, understanding, and trust. He was no longer an outsider. He was part of the family they were forming, a human among Ilari, bridging gaps that no one else could cross. And with that bond came responsibility. A responsibility that would soon be tested more severely than any drill or warning could prepare him for. One day, as the station hummed quietly with its constant activity, Jack felt the shift in the air. Something was coming, something bigger than before. He checked his equipment, reviewed every route, and positioned himself strategically. Lyra and Sina joined him, their confidence mirrored in their glowing markings. They did not speak. They did not need to. The bond between them was clear, unspoken, and complete. Jack understood then that the real tests were not drills, messages, or warnings. The real test would be when enemies crossed the line completely, and he would have to act without hesitation to protect the twins, without question, without fear, and without fail. He was ready, and the twins knew it. Their bond, tested and proven through small actions and quiet presence, was now stronger than anyone could challenge. And in that strength, Jack found not just purpose but a rare and growing sense of belonging. The galaxy was watching, whether it realized it or not. And it would soon learn that humans, once committed, could not be ignored. Jack Carter, the human protector, was no longer just a bodyguard. He was a force. And together, he and the twins were about to face dangers that would test everything they had built: loyalty, trust, and the unbreakable bond that connected them. The next attack was coming, and when it arrived, nothing would be the same. The station had grown quiet. For weeks, Jack Carter, Lyra, and Cena had maintained their routines, anticipating threats and strengthening their defenses. But Jack could feel it in the air. Something was coming, a sense of tension that even the twins noticed. Their calm routines were shifting under an invisible weight. It began with subtle signs: a sensor reading that seemed slightly off, a maintenance droid moving where it should not, and a faint signal in the communication network that did not match the usual traffic. Jack noticed all of it, cataloging each anomaly. The twins observed him, their glowing markings pulsing with anticipation. They trusted him completely, and they expected him to act when the time came. "They are planning something," Cena said quietly as they sat in their chamber, reviewing data from the previous day. "More coordinated than before, more dangerous." Jack nodded. "I've seen patterns like this before. It will happen soon, and it will not be simple." Lyra frowned, pacing the room. "We cannot hide forever. We cannot stay behind walls and sensors. They will come, and we need to be ready." Jack agreed. He began planning a response that was more than just defensive. They could not wait to react, they needed to act. He mapped the station in his mind, noting every corridor, every blind spot, every weak point. He also mapped the twins' positions, knowing that they would need to move freely during the confrontation. The first real attack came in the middle of a starless night cycle. Alarms screamed, red lights flashed, and the hum of the station shifted to a tense rhythm. Automated turrets activated, and the station's internal systems locked down. Jack moved immediately, guiding Lyra and Cena toward a protected corridor that he had identified days before. The attackers were more organized than any previous threat. They were elite operatives, equipped with advanced armor and weapons designed to bypass station defenses. They moved quickly, trying to separate the twins from each other and from Jack. Jack positioned himself between the attackers and the twins, his movements precise and calm. He did not panic. He did not hesitate. He used his training, instincts, and knowledge of the station to neutralize threats efficiently. With each move, he disrupted the attackers' formation, preventing them from gaining the upper hand. Lyra moved beside him, her own abilities complementing his. She struck with precision, using quick movements to disarm and incapacitate attackers. Cena observed the battlefield, giving Jack critical information about enemy positions and predicting their next moves. Together, the trio became a seamless unit, each anticipating the other's actions. Despite their skill, the attackers were relentless. One managed to bypass Jack's initial defense and approach Cena. She reacted instantly, stepping back while signaling Jack. He intercepted the attacker mid-stride, knocking them off balance and disabling their weapon. "They are stronger than before," Lyra said through the comm link they used internally. "We cannot keep this up forever." Jack assessed the situation quickly. "Then we end it fast. We cannot let them regroup." He led the twins through a series of rapid maneuvers, using hidden passages and access points that only he knew. The attackers tried to follow, but Jack anticipated their every move. He set traps, manipulated the station systems, and forced them into confined spaces where their numbers became a disadvantage. Finally, after what felt like hours, the last of the attackers was subdued. They were captured, disarmed, and secured. The station was quiet again except for the low hum of life support and the faint glow of the twins' markings. Lyra exhaled, a mixture of relief and admiration in her eyes. "You did it. We are safe." "For now," Jack replied. They will plan again. We need to prepare for the next wave. Sina placed a hand lightly on his arm. You do not hesitate, you do not falter. That is why we trust you completely. Jack nodded, understanding the weight of her words. Trust was not given lightly among their people, and he had earned it fully. The bond between them had grown stronger through shared danger, mutual reliance, and unwavering loyalty. In the aftermath, the twins and Jack reviewed the situation. They analyzed the attackers' tactics, noted weaknesses, and reinforced their defenses. Jack proposed new strategies, combining human unpredictability with Alari precision. Lyra and Sina agreed, recognizing the value of his perspective. As they worked, Jack noticed a subtle shift in the twins' behavior. They were more open with him, more willing to include him in decisions beyond security. Their trust had deepened into something more profound, a bond that extended beyond duty. One evening after the station had settled into its normal hum, Lyra approached Jack. "We need to talk," she said. Her markings glowed softly, a sign of seriousness. Jack followed her to a quiet chamber. Sina joined them, standing slightly behind Lyra. The twins exchanged a glance, then turned their attention to him. "Humans have a different way of bonding," Sina said. "We see it now. Presence, loyalty, willingness to act without question. You have proven yourself in ways no other human could." Jack listened, sensing the weight of their words. He had expected gratitude, but this was more. It was recognition, respect, and acceptance into their world. Lyra stepped closer. "Our people have rules about trust and closeness. Tonight, you will share space with us again. Not as a test, but as an acknowledgement. You are part of our circle now." Jack understood immediately. This was a ritual of bonding, a sacred act among the Alari. It was a sign that he was no longer an outsider, that he belonged. He agreed, moving into the chamber with care. He positioned himself respectfully, allowing the twins their space while remaining close enough to respond instantly if danger appeared. The room was quiet, the only sound the soft hum of the station and the faint pulse of the twins' markings. Hours passed in silence, each of them aware of the other's presence. It was a moment of connection, trust, and reassurance. Jack learned more about the twins in that time than in weeks of conversation: how they breathed, how they moved, how they remained alert even in rest. It was a lesson in observation, patience, and loyalty. When morning arrived, Lyra and Sina spoke softly. "You are no longer just our protector," Lyra said. "You are part of us now," Sina nodded. "And we will rely on you, not just for defense, but for guidance and presence." "Your role has changed," Jack nodded, understanding the full significance. He was no longer merely a bodyguard. He was part of a bond that transcended duty, culture, and expectation. He had become integral to the twins' lives, their safety, and their trust. The weeks that followed were filled with continued vigilance. New threats emerged, each testing their coordination and resolve. But Jack, Lyra, and Sina faced them together, using strategy, skill, and the strength of their bond to overcome every challenge. Word of the human protector spread quietly through the station and beyond. Other nobles and operatives began to recognize that this human was unlike any other, unpredictable, loyal, and completely dedicated. Attempts to undermine the twins' position failed, not because of force alone, but because of Jack's presence, judgment, and unwavering commitment. One evening, after a long day of drills and patrols, the twins gathered with Jack in a quiet chamber. Lyra's markings glowed softly and Sina's pulse shimmered in the dim light. "We owe you more than protection," Lyra said. "We owe you trust, respect, and acknowledgement of your place with us." Jack remained quiet, absorbing their words. He had expected danger, challenges, and tests. He had not expected acceptance, acknowledgement, or connection on this level. Sina placed a hand on his shoulder. "You are part of our lives now, and we do not take this lightly. You have earned a place not just by skill, but by loyalty, judgment, and patience." Jack nodded. I will continue to protect you and I will remain vigilant. Nothing else matters. The bond between them had reached a new level. It was no longer about tests, drills, or survival. It was about mutual trust, reliance, and understanding. Jack was no longer an observer or an outsider. He was a participant, fully integrated into the twins' world. As they prepared for the next challenge, Jack reflected on everything he had learned. The Alari were a complex people, bound by rules, customs, and traditions that often seemed alien to him. Yet, in their vulnerability, he found a place where his skills, instincts, and loyalty mattered more than anything else. He had become more than a bodyguard. He had become a trusted presence, a stabilizing force, and a part of the twins lives in ways that would shape their future. And the galaxy would soon learn that a human, once trusted and bonded, could change the balance of power entirely. Jack Carter, Lyra, and Cena stood together, ready for whatever came next, and they knew it would not be easy, but they were ready. And in that readiness, they had found strength, unity, and a bond that no threat could break. The weeks that followed the last attack passed in a tense rhythm. Jack Carter, Lyra, and Cena had settled into a routine of constant vigilance. Every corridor, every signal, every movement was monitored. Yet amid the tension, a quiet bond had grown between them, a trust deeper than words, a connection built on shared danger, respect, and loyalty. Jack had learned the twins' routines, their habits, and even their subtle shifts in mood. He could anticipate their actions before they acted. Lyra had learned to respect his judgment, even when it contradicted tradition. Cena had begun to rely on his instincts in ways that were rare for her people. Together, they had become a unit that few could challenge. One morning, a message arrived from an unknown source. It was simple but alarming. Another attack was coming, larger and more coordinated than before. This time, the threat was not just to the twins, it was to the station itself. The attackers intended to seize control, take hostages, and force political compliance. Jack studied the message carefully. He traced the origin, analyzed the timing, and mapped possible entry points. He shared the information with the twins. "We have no choice," Lyra said, her voice firm. "We will face them before they reach the station core." "Agreed," Jack said. "We act fast or we lose control," Cena added quietly. "We cannot fail. Too many lives depend on us." Preparation began immediately. Jack positioned the twins strategically, reinforcing weak points in the station and setting traps for the attackers. He trained the twins to move efficiently through corridors, combining their abilities with his tactical planning. They ran drills repeatedly, each one more demanding than the last. When the attackers arrived, they moved with precision. Elite operatives, armed with advanced weapons and shields, attempted to breach the station from multiple points. Alarms blared, lights flashed, and the hum of the station shifted into chaos. Jack responded instantly. He led the twins through safe paths, neutralized threats with careful efficiency, and coordinated defensive measures with the station systems. Every movement was calculated, precise, and deliberate. The attackers were strong, but they were predictable in their patterns, and Jack anticipated each one. Lyra struck with bold, rapid movements, disarming opponents and creating openings. Cena observed and calculated, directing Jack and Lyra to points where they could maximize their advantage. Together, the trio moved as one, human and twins, a seamless team. Midway through the confrontation, a group of attackers tried to isolate Cena. Jack reacted immediately, intercepting them and neutralizing their advance. He did not hesitate, did not falter, and did not allow panic to enter his mind. His calm presence stabilized the twins, giving them confidence amid the chaos. Lyra looked at him with a faint smile. "You are always in the right place," she said, even as she fought alongside him. Jack responded with a simple nod. "I stay where I am needed." The battle continued for hours. The attackers were relentless, but the bond between Jack and the twins was stronger. They anticipated each other's moves, communicated without words, and acted with precision. The station itself became an ally, responding to Jack's commands to lock doors, redirect energy, and trap intruders. Finally, after intense struggle, the attackers were subdued. Those who survived were captured and secured. The station was safe and the twins were unharmed. The trio stood together in the quiet aftermath, breathing heavily, their markings and presence calm again. Lyra turned to Jack, her glow brightening. "We could not have done this without you," she said. Sina nodded. "Your judgment, loyalty, and skill saved us again. You are more than a protector." Jack looked at them, his expression steady. "I did what was needed. We all did. We act as a team." In the days that followed, the twins and Jack repaired the station, analyzed the attack, and reinforced defenses. They also spent time together, learning more about each other beyond duty. Lyra asked Jack about Earth, his childhood, and the choices that led him here. Sina asked about human reasoning, decisions under pressure, and how he remained calm when others panicked. Jack answered each question honestly, in simple words. He did not exaggerate, did not boast, and did not hide anything. The twins listened carefully, absorbing his perspective and learning from it. One night, as the station floated quietly in space, the twins invited Jack to share the chamber with them again. This time, it was not a test. It was a choice, a symbol of their trust and the bond that had grown over weeks of shared danger and reliance. Jack moved respectfully into the space, careful to give them comfort and privacy, while remaining close enough to respond instantly if needed. The room was quiet, the only sound the soft hum of the station and the faint glow of their markings. Hours passed in calm silence. Jack observed the twins, noting their breathing, movements, and vigilance even in rest. He realized that protection was not just about strength, it was about presence, awareness, and understanding. Being close to them allowed him to anticipate danger and respond immediately. It was a lesson in patience, loyalty, and connection. When morning came, Lyra spoke first. "You are no longer just our bodyguard," she said softly. "You are part of our lives now, part of our bond, and part of our circle." Sina nodded. "We rely on you not only for protection but for presence, judgment, and loyalty. Your role is permanent." Jack understood fully. He was no longer an outsider, an observer, or a temporary protector. He was integrated into their lives, their trust, and their safety. His place with the twins was now a permanent bond, recognized by them and by the rules of their culture. The weeks that followed saw the station return to relative calm. The immediate threats had been neutralized, but Jack knew that the galaxy would always pose challenges. He continued training with the twins, patrolling and maintaining readiness. Yet the bond they shared was no longer fragile. It had been tested and proven. Lyra and Sina began including Jack in decisions beyond security. They asked for his perspective on political matters, alliances, and strategies. His human insight, combined with their alien intelligence, created solutions that no one else could anticipate. Together, they were stronger, smarter, and more resilient than any rival could predict. One evening, as they looked out at the distant stars, Lyra spoke quietly. "We underestimated humans. We thought your species was limited, but we see now that loyalty, presence, and choice make you powerful in ways we did not expect." Jack smiled faintly. "I only do what is needed. That is all humans can promise." Sina's markings shimmered softly. "That is enough, more than enough. You are part of our lives and we will not forget it." The trio sat together in quiet harmony, understanding that their bond had changed everything. Threats could come, challenges could rise, but together they were unstoppable. Jack was no longer just a protector. He was family, ally, and partner in ways beyond mere duty. As the station hummed gently around them, Jack realized the full meaning of his journey. He had arrived as a stranger, a human among alien nobles. He had faced tests, dangers, and threats that could have ended in failure. Yet, through calm judgment, skill, and loyalty, he had earned a place in the twins' lives, a bond that would not break. The galaxy, which had underestimated humans repeatedly, had learned another lesson. Humans, once bonded and trusted, were forces beyond expectation. They did not merely act, they protected, they endured, and they became inseparable from those they cared for. Jack Carter, Lyra, and Cena stood together, ready for whatever the future held. Their bond was unbreakable, their trust absolute, and their presence undeniable. The threats of the galaxy could not divide them, and no rival could challenge what they had built. And in that realization, Jack understood something deeper. He had not only protected the twins, he had become part of something larger, a connection that transcended species, culture, and danger. They were no longer just a human and two alien sisters. They were a unit, a force, and a family, and the galaxy would have to take notice. From that day forward, wherever the twins went, Jack would go with them. Wherever danger appeared, he would be ready. Wherever trust was required, he would be present. Their bond had changed the rules of engagement, altered expectations, and proven that loyalty, courage, and human determination could not be ignored. The attacks had ended, but the story of their bond had only begun. Together, they had faced danger, earned trust, and created a connection that could not be broken. And as the stars passed silently outside the station, Jack Carter, Lyra, and Cena knew one truth above all. Once humans and Illyri chose to trust each other, no force in the galaxy could undo it. They were together, strong and ready. The galaxy would never forget the human who became more than a protector. He became part of the family. He became part of the bond that nothing could destroy. And that bond would shape the future in ways no one had yet imagined.